Hi, this is Jim.
And Ralph.
And we welcome you to Psychology Takeaway, the podcast where we look at new things in psychology or old things that might be relevant today and try to make them relevant to you.
And to us.
Hi, Ralph.
Hi, Jim. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing well, and I just want to say hi to our listeners and draw their attention to your fine new shirt for Psychology Takeaway.
Isn't that cool? I had a birthday this week, and Alicia gave me this. I think she made it or had it made for me. But if any of our listeners and viewers want to have a Psychology Takeaway shirt, just send me an email, and I will direct you to Alicia. Hey.
And she will get the shirt done and a fine mug with Psychology Takeaway.
Yeah, so, I probably won't wear this all the time.
Well, particularly since next week is supposed to be 90 plus, wearing a sweatshirt might be contraindicated.
Yeah, definitely. And this is going to be a good podcast today, Ralph. You know why I know that?
Why do you know that?
At the end of it, we get to eat curlers. You brought some donuts in today.
I did, yes.
Okay.
We said in the early days that we were always in favor of coffee and donuts for our podcasting, but recently we've been doing only coffee.
Yeah, that's right. Well, when we have guests on, we usually give them a donut.
Right.
Okay. Now, last week, Ralph, you kind of threw me a loop a little bit because I had not realized that you were going to ask the question, well, what exactly is a helicopter parent? And I went brain dead.
Okay.
So I did some research on helicopter parenting, and it's not a new term. It actually is a term that goes back to about, 1969 or so. Yeah. And there was a popular psychologist, a media psychologist, who's actually was a real psychologist also. He worked at Columbia University, which is not too shabby a place. His name was Chaim Ganat, and he wrote some books about parent-child and teacher-child interactions. And one of his students, I think, came to him and was talking about the suffocating way his parents, that is the student's parents, parented him. He said it was like mom and dad were always hovering around him, making sure that everything he did was correct or everything that he did was safe. And, at that point, as a 20-year-old, he felt anxious and felt like, maybe he couldn't do anything right.
And here's an interesting thing to me, Jim, and thinking of curious kids. The young man came up with the term helicopter. He said, my parents hoover over me like helicopters.
Mm-hmm.
So it was not the psychologist who had X number of years of working as a mental health counselor and psychologist. It was a young man who was looking for a new term.
Mm-hmm. And we know the name of Chaim Ganat, but I think the name of the young man is probably lost in antiquity, right?
Or in somebody's notes.
Yeah. So I looked at the research. It doesn't take long. There are only 37 articles that I could find written in the last 50 years that actually mentioned either helicopter parenting or something like helicopter parenting, close supervision, things like that. And I did not come up with any research that gave it a very positive spin. Some of the things that I did come up with was that kids who were helicoptered tended toward depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, a sense of entitlement. Did you find anything?
Yeah, poor coping skills, reduced life satisfaction, a potential for risky behavior, which was interesting because that sometimes risky behavior is cant for substance abuse or sexual promiscuity.
Okay. Now, it's kind of interesting. when we looked at it last week, we said that probably the motivation for being a helicopter helicopter parent, was positive. They probably want to protect the kid, right?
Right.
But as we're talking about curious kids, one of the things that you and I know is that if you overprotect, you might get a kid whose curiosity level is kind of taken down, right?
Yeah, and there is another term which is much more recent. It came into being about the year 2099 maybe, and that is hummingbird parent.
Aha, I have heard of that.
So a helicopter parent is a parent who hovers over you and makes sure that you can do no wrong, which may in fact mean that you can do nothing to their satisfaction, because you're not at an age or stage of development where you can satisfy them. But a hummingbird parent holds back a little, watches,
they're
hovers,
equally diligent,
but guides,
right?
and is not right there over top of you, ready to drop from great heights with deadly accuracy.
So, hey, we're talking today about parenting the Curious Child, Part 2. And, as you'll see in the program notes later on under Learn More, it will say that if you want to get a free copy of the book that we were working on, we will send it to you. All you have to do is, send me an email, and I will send it to you as a PDF, and you can take a look at it.
And
then when it comes out on Amazon, go ahead and purchase it so you have one for yourself and one for all of your friends.
Yeah, as Jerry Rubin said, steal this book. He went broke publishing that book because everybody did steal it. But I just wanted to direct our viewers' attention to the fact that in the program notes right at the end is your email address, so they can find a way to get in contact with you.
They can find a way to get in contact with Alicia through me, and then also get a copy of the book. So, and then we'll also let you have access to links to the other books like Oak Island and Make Good Decisions Every Day, and Reality Therapy, which is doing pretty well. But let's now get back to curiosity.
Well, one of the things, Jim, before we go into the idea of the aphorisms or old sayings that have dealt with curiosity for a long time, I just want to mention to our viewers that the problem with helicopter parenting and the studies that have been done is they're mostly correlational. So you really can't take a kid who's curious and a kid who's not curious and put them in a Skinner box and have one or both helicopter parented, and at the end of the day have some good data.
Right.
So it pretty much is correlational, and all we can say is it looks like this.
Yeah, I was talking to Andrea. Remember her? She was on a few weeks ago, and she's the woman who spends half of her year in Rome and half of her year in Mecosta, Michigan. Remember her? Yeah,
of course.
Well, we were talking about personality development the other day, and she wanted to know what kinds of things in childhood or adolescence would lead to various personality either disorders or problems later on. And I explained to her that we can't do that kind of research. We can't put kids in a Skinner box.
Yeah.
We can't deprive someone of perhaps nurturing and give extra nurturing to somebody else. So just about everything we know in psychology has to do with correlational stuff as opposed to
hard
experimental.
data. Yeah.
And just about everything we know has to do with college sophomores.
Because they are hungry for money and will come and say, yes, I will be a subject if you pay me X number of dollars.
Or we make it a requirement in their Psychology 201 class.
But the other thing, Jim, that I found very interesting, today I was looking at a news site called 1440.
Okay.
And they had a thing that
I think I remember that year.
yeah, and they had a thing that said these are things that etiquette said should be the way you conduct yourself as either a man or a woman. And they started in 1880 and went all the way through to the 1960s.
Okay.
And one of the things they said, which was really interesting to me, in 1900, and again reinforced by being repeated in 1920, was you should not touch, fondle, kiss, or hug your infant until they are at least 6 months old.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they will become a spoiled child.
Okay. Yeah, good
Now,
point.
I think that is totally incorrect as we understand psychology,
Right.
but it was one of the things that the etiquette books said, don't do this.
Yeah. We think of some of the psychologists that are on television right now as kind of pop psychologists, but they've been around for a long time. One of the first persons to write about child development and what you should do with your kid was John Watson.
Right.
Who a lot of our viewers will realize is the John Watson from the Little Albert studies, who took a kid and classically conditioned the kid to be afraid of a white rat. Whatever happened to little Albert? Well, we actually know what happened to him, and maybe we'll talk about that some other time. But this is the guy who, after getting kicked out of Johns Hopkins, starts as a advertising executive, and goes around the country giving talks on how to raise kids. So
Raise them to be terrified of white rats.
yeah, and so we can go back. I'm putting together my developmental psych class for the fall, and I go back to John Locke, and John Locke has a lot of things to say about child raising and about how to feed kids, and some of it's correct and some of it isn't correct, how to interact with kids. So I think whoever has the podium is the one who is most in control of some of this stuff.
Yeah, well, remember the classic book that was written on raising kids, and my wife talks about her parents who followed, and I'm blocking on the guy's name now.
Is that Dr. Spock?
Dr. Spock,
Okay.
yeah. I keep visualizing a guy with pointy ears, and it doesn't really work.
Okay.
But
right, no. Different Spock.
Dr. Spock and her parents followed religiously, and Spock had a radio program, How to Raise Good Kids.
Okay.
And they listened to it. Now, so the idea of being told, here are effective ways of raising your children, is very old.
Yeah, good point. I dug up some quotes about curiosity. All men, and I suppose today we would say all men and women, by nature have a desire to know. That's Aristotle. We can trace a lot of stuff back to Aristotle, Plato, Socrates. Wonder is the beginning of wisdom. There's Socrates.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to get into how this relates to parenting. But as we mentioned last week, kids at age 5 or 6 are very curious. They want to know everything. They ask us questions. They wonder.
Yeah.
But as you pointed out, by the time they're 15 or so, that wonderment is gone, right?
In a lot of kids, it is. And the ones who perhaps are most successful in universities are kids who keep that for whatever strange set of reasons. And they come to university saying, now I want to know the real answers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things that you can say as a parent to your 6-year-old is, you can go to the computer and Google that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Last week you were sending people to the Encyclopedia Britannica, I think.
yeah,
Okay,
you can go
so
to the encyclopedia. Well, the thing is, you can go to Google, but as a curious kid, you're much more balanced if your parent doesn't say, go to Google and find out. Your parent says, let's go to Google and we'll both find out because I don't know the answer to
Right.
that. And then when you find out, you talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it's the talk, I think, that really, for the kid, is the important part.
Yeah. There was a study done at Bell Labs in New Jersey when I was a doctoral student at Rutgers that talked about giving kids access to computers and getting them access to the information on the computer versus giving them computers, information, access, and having an adult with the kid, checking in and seeing how the child is handling the stuff on the screen. Well, this is a long time ago, but we still have people getting stuff on their screens. And if you have an adult that is interacting with the kid, chances are better that the child will understand what's going on the screen and then later on remember it and be able to apply it. You said more recently we've had people who are kind of wild and wonderful. I don't know very much about Steve Jobs, but he said a few things about things like creativity and curiosity. One of the things he said was, stay curious and stay foolish. The idea being that you get some good ideas from the world around you. Like, here's something. This is a telephone, right? Now, Alex is here. He probably has a telephone like this. No, he doesn't have a telephone like this. He has a telephone that's as smart as the computer that sent people to the moon the first time.
Smarter, probably.
Probably smarter. So you can talk to people over a long distance on this phone, but that's about it. Whereas, Alex, what can you do on your phone?
I can surf the web. I can take really good pictures, actually pretty decent pictures.
Mm-hmm.
You can play games.
You can play games. You can do a lot of dumb things on smartphones. That's true.
Yeah.
Depending on the
And
game. you
can go on TikTok.
You could. I don't have it, but you could.
Yeah. So one of the things that, we have to encourage, and I think sitting with your kid in front of the computer and helping them to understand what Google says about something is a wonderful way to help them to learn how to assess information. Because that's really one of the things that a lot of people, particularly people under 30 today, have difficulty with. They look at information and they cannot immediately say, my BS detector says this has got a whiff to it. They just kind of go,
Whoa.
Yeah, that's what it says.
It must be right.
It must be right.
It's on the screen.
It's on the screen, yeah. And, you have to, one of the things I think is learning how to evaluate data or information as opposed to data. Both are things that people need today.
Yep, no question. We've talked about that before, and we'll, I'm sure, get back to it again. But this whole idea of computer literacy or media literacy is really important, because, hey, you could go on the web and find somebody who's going to tell you that the Earth is flat, or that up is down, and are you going to believe it? Well, I wouldn't, but somebody might.
Somebody might, yeah.
I like what Albert Einstein said also about curiosity, and we'll get to Wayne Gretzky in a minute, but Albert Einstein, he said, I have no special talents. I just have curiosity. Well, it's not the guy did gain a Nobel Prize, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder how many Nobel Prize laureates would really attribute their success to their curiosity, too. Not stopping when they hit a dead end, but reframing it and thinking of their mistakes as triumphs, kind of like Edison.
Edison,
Yeah.
yes. Now, I'm going to ask you, Jim, a question. What do three physicists, Newton, Einstein, and the guy who got ALS, who ended up in the wheelchair,
Hawkins.
Hawkins.
Okay.
What do those three physicists all have in common?
Well, they weren't all sick. Could it be curiosity?
Well, it's curiosity, certainly. But the other thing is, all three of them were adjudged by their primary educators to be terminally dumb.
Uh-huh. Like a couple of people in this room, right?
Right.
Okay.
And the thing is that, we look at what happens with people who are curious, and they tend to be the kind of people who will say to a teacher, "That's wrong."
Uh-oh. Yeah.
And teachers don't like that, particularly.
We know we've got 100 years of teaching experience between us. Yeah. Well, now this sounds a little bit off the mark, but I want to talk about a hockey player that actually spent some time in Sault Ste. Marie.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and on his way to the big leagues. Sault Ste. Marie was a hockey town, but minor hockey. That's where we played hockey, and we never made it to the big leagues. But some people did. The Espositos did, and this guy Wayne Gretzky, came through and ended up where Edmonton, I think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and he's got an interesting quote. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yep.
Yep. And that's one of the things I think that we want to encourage the parent of a curious kid. Let the kid take the shot. Encourage the kid to take the shot. Encourage the kid to make mistakes.
And the thing is, if you take the shot and you don't get a goal, you get something.
You get a shot.
You get a shot.
Yeah.
And you also learn that, okay, that shot didn't work because it went too far to the left. Mm-hmm. So how do I correct that? Now, I'm going to say
so
for the benefit of our listeners.
A feedback loop there?
Yeah.
Okay.
For the benefit of our listeners, I'm going to say my one claim to fame.
You have a claim to fame?
Yes. I was asked to play with Sioux College's team in a hockey game.
Uh-huh.
And I played for about 30 seconds against Wayne Gretzky. And somebody checked me into the boards, and I sat on the bench for the rest of the game trying to recover.
It probably wasn't Gretzky that...
No, it wasn't Gretzky. He deked around me and was off to score a goal.
Okay. So, Alex, what time are we at?
About 23 minutes in.
Okay. So, we're going to, in the future, spend a little bit more time with one aspect of both curiosity and capability, and that's resilience. We'll do that a couple weeks down the line. But Ralph, you were telling me that you're thinking ahead to the next couple of shows. And
I was, yeah. And one of the things that we think about when we think about people who are developing, they're coming along, they're in midlife, wherever they are, there are a lot of people who might use some help from a therapist, but they won't go because they are afraid of the stigma that's attached. So they say, I can't go and see a therapist. I'm not crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes you don't have to be crazy to see a therapist. Sometimes you have to be crazy not to see one, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So that's what we're looking at ahead. So, hey, if you want to get yourself one of these things or a shirt.
One of the things, Jim, I want to leave our viewers with at the end of the show is just a little saying that comes from one of the Chinese monks, which is, learning that you know nothing is the first step to wisdom.
Hey, I think then we're pretty wise, right, Ralph?
We are.
Okay.
Don't forget
Alex,
to say
wanna
like.
take-
Don't forget to say like and comment, subscribe.
Oh, okay, yeah. We've got some new things up here. So,
Fancy buttons.
yeah. So click on like if you like. Don't click if you don't like. But subscribe and hey, send a comment to something down below, and we'll respond, to it. And share. What does that mean? Just tell a friend.
Yeah, spread it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
spread it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, certainly spreading things is what Ralph and I have done in the past few years, past 50 or
50.
so. Okay. Why don't you push the button and take us home?
All right, here we go.
Until next time, this is Jim
And Ralph,
saying keep your stick on the ice.
because we're all in this
together.